Hello, and thank you for checking in to the Neutral Zone Hotel, an unapologetically left-leaning podcast exploring hockey at its best and worst. My name is SJ, my pronouns are they, them, and I am a Seattle Kraken fan. I'm so pleased to welcome you to the Neutral Zone Hotel. Here to ensure your stay is a memorable one is my colleague, Benjamin.
Hey, folks. The only thing I have to say today is, my name is Benjamin. My pronouns are he, him. And I'm a Halifax Mooseheads fan, currently in the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia, watching as my beloved Mooseheads battle in Game 7. They are the worst team that made the QMJHL playoffs, and they've taken the best game to a 0-0 tie in the middle of the second period. Slap, shot, shoot, score, you just can't stop the Moose. That's what they say around here.
Well said. Just can't stop the Moose. Or just at least the head of the Moose somehow. The rest of the Moose not involved.
Well, I mean, if you go to the games, they just have the Moose head. Like, they have a giant Moose head with glowing eyes that comes down and snorts smoke when they score goals.
They have a giant Moose head that comes down from, like, the rafters in the arena?
Yeah.
Is it a real Moose head?
No, I assume that they did not find some sort of prehistoric living moose and chop off its head, because it's much larger than a moose's real head.
Okay. A real moose head is very large, so
this is much larger.
I just wanted to check.
You're silly.
Well, yes, I am. Folks, it is the playoffs for the Canadian Hockey League, but we're not going to talk about that quite yet. We're going to start with the big event of the week, which was, of course, Alex Ovechkin breaks Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goal-scoring record with, 895 goals on Sunday morning. It was morning for me. Had to drag myself out of bed. Against the New York Islanders at UBS Arena. That's right. That's what their arena's called. UBS.
You got all the facts right on that one.
It's hard because I didn't take any notes. Doing it from memory.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Capitals did lose that game, but the only thing that people were there to see did occur, because they certainly weren't there to see the Islanders. There was a beautiful ceremony, and by beautiful, I mean I didn't actually watch the ceremony. I just kind of turned it off, like, right after Gary Bettman started talking, but, I'm told the ceremony was fine. And, like, a million years later, I don't know, like 20 minutes, they resumed play. What did you think, Benjamin, as a lifelong hockey fan, about this momentous occasion?
When I became a hockey fan in 1993, which is the last really high-scoring year of that sort of late 70s through early 90s period, it was evident that no one would ever touch Wayne Gretzky in any of these major scoring categories. Nobody would ever get close to him. As we lived through the 90s, where goal scoring totals dropped and dropped and dropped, and the era of the clutch and grab and the neutral zone trap showed up, it became even more evident. There were years where the top scoring player in the NHL had 42 goals. We are not talking about a high scoring era. Mm-hmm. And then Alexander Ovechkin showed up. And for a while, he was doing really well. He scored 60 a couple times. Then he started to slow down. He was scoring 39 and 41. And you're thinking, well, if he's doing this now when he's 29, 32, he's not going to make it. And then he wins the cup, and on the other side, he's still scoring. And at that point, one of the greatest records in sports is suddenly up for grabs. I don't think it can be expressed how much of a unicorn Ovechkin is to score 42 goals in a season where he lost, 15 games to injury?
Something like that.
Something like that. At age 39. At age 39. Yeah.
Alex Ovechkin is older than I am, which is crazy to think about.
It's unheralded, the amount of points, the goals he's put up in the NHL. And I don't just mean from that perspective. Wayne Gretzky, not to say anything against Wayne, he is one of the greatest players of all time, if not certainly the greatest player. But he racked up points in an era where the average save percentage was in the 870s.
They had not invented goaltending yet.
I mean, to an extent, that's almost certainly literally true. You had short goaltenders playing stand-up. The pads weren't what they are now. The skills weren't what they are now. Gretzky played. He was head and tails above all of his peers, with the exception of Mario. But he played on a team of absolute megastars. Like all-timers. Yeri Curry, Paul Coffey, Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson. And I guess Kevin Lowe made the Hall of Fame too, but that's kind of, yeah. The point is, Gretzky wasn't just Gretzky. He had so many people to pass the puck to him, and he had so many people to pass the puck to. Ovechkin has had some great players on the Capitals, but Backstrom isn't Messier or Yeri Curry. And Mike Green and John Carlson, while great defenders, are not Paul Coffey.
Dylan Strome is
Dylan Strome is certainly he's no Glenn Anderson. Nothing against Dylan Strome or John Carlson, they're great players. Nick Backstrom, great players. But when we look at the roster of players on the Capitals for the last 20 years since Ovechkin joined, there is really only one surefire Hall of Famer, and that's Alexander Ovechkin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is Ovechkin as good a hockey player as Gretzky was? Of course not. Gretzky was the total package in many ways. But Ovechkin is the best goal scorer at all time. He is the best at doing the most important thing in hockey. And when he scored that goal at UBS Arena, I was very happy to see it was, not only was it a good goal, it was an emphatic Alexander Ovechkin laser beam from the left circle. No concerns for interference. No concerns for, was this a goal? It was a goal that when you see it on a replay in the Hockey Hall of Fame 20, 30, 40 years from now, you'll immediately see everything that is special about Alex Ovechkin. And I think that is supremely cool.
And he did it against a great goalie, one he had never scored on before. Somehow, the only goal that Ovechkin has ever scored on Ilya Sorokin was that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Which is quite surprising, considering they've both been in the league for a while.
So how do you feel about this as a newcomer to hockey, relative newcomer to hockey?
It's pretty cool. It's neat to see the kind of the living proof that we are living in a real golden age. I think that this is a big marker in how great the game is in this era, and how this is a really good time to get into hockey, to get into whether that's the NHL or the PWHL or the Mooseheads, right? This is a great time to do it. And I love to see that the progress and the milestones in the game. I think that's really cool for anybody. So yeah. I definitely don't have the same appreciation for Wayne Gretzky's career that you do. I haven't watched any of his milestone games. It's all just kind of numbers to me. But I can watch Alex Ovechkin score goals, and it's really obvious like what a special player he is, and the incredible longevity and effectiveness throughout his career. Guys like Sidney Crosby is like a better all-around hockey player than Ovechkin, but he lost so much of his career to injury. Just the ability to stay healthy and play at a high level deep into your 30s and lose very few games to injury in the lead up is its own kind of special talent. Yeah. He's a freak of nature. And I say that as a compliment.
I mean, he said it himself very early on in his career, Russian machine never breaks. Wayne got to score seasons of 92 goals, 71 goals, 87 goals, 73 goals, 62 goals. He got to score these big, magnificent record-setting seasons. And Ovi never quite got to that height. But what he did do was score 40 goals for longer. The end of Wayne's career, he starts to score less. Down to 40, then down to 30, then 16 in a lockout shortened year, and then 11 and 15, 23, and then 9 in his last year. Alexander Ovechkin, who is the same age Gretzky was in his last year, stepped it up. And like I said, 42 goals at age... If he hadn't gotten the record and he'd scored 42 goals at age 39, we'd be talking about him as one of the best players at his age group of all time. Mm-hmm. Right? Like there are only a handful of similar seasons in this age bracket. Gordie Howe, I think, had one. Joe Sakic, Teemu Selanne, and I believe that in terms of goals scored, he's passed them all now. So that right there is a massive achievement. But yeah, 895 goals. It's something I never thought I'd see. I want to touch briefly on the political ramifications of this.
Sure. Because
obviously Wayne Gretzky has managed to make himself persona non grata in Canada. Mm. And we kind of saw why. Both games he attended during the last bit of the Ovechkin chase, he was hanging out with Kash Patel, who is the head of the FBI and appointed by Mr. Trump. Wayne Gretzky was named to the Order of Canada and never showed up to pick up his award. Just
weird. What a thumb in the eye to his own country.
It's very clear that even though he is not out there personally endorsing what's going on in the States, it's very clear that he's cool with it. And that kind of really sucks. So a lot of Canadians were very glad to see one of his biggest records taken away. And on Alexander Ovechkin's end, while he is certainly personally friendly with Putin, his public statements, or his most recent public statement on the Ukraine war, was that he did not want to see war. And as milquetoast as that is, it's more than Wayne Gretzky has ever said about the harm that Donald Trump is intentionally causing Canada. So I don't want to say it's better. I kind of truly believe that Ovechkin does just go, well, he's my president, so I do things for my country, and he's the president. I kind of believe he probably doesn't think about it much more deeply than that. But Wayne Gretzky is Donald Trump's personal friend. They've been friends for a very long time. They met in New York City circles, run by extremely bad people, and they've been pals ever since. Because Gretzky is the greatest winner in the game of hockey. And Trump likes people who are winners around him. I can't say what Trump does to appeal to Wayne, but there's something there, and it just seems very sad to me that someone who was a great icon like that will never be remembered the same again up here, because he was quiet when it was the country's hour of need. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, it is a really sad situation. He would have to say so little, so almost nothing at all, and Canada would embrace him again. But people are rightfully extremely pissed off, and I don't know. It's depressing to me. I don't know.
We touched very briefly on this around the Four Nations, which by no fault of the NHL became an extremely political piece. And the concept of hockey politics in Canadian history is not a new one. We've talked about it when we talked about the Summit Series in the past and the Canada Cups and the history of the World Championships. We've talked about kind of where that is.
International sport is inherently political, deeply, deeply political at every level. You can't talk about international sport without talking about politics.
That's right. And or at least in most times anyway. And if Harris had won the election, this particular event probably wouldn't have been that political.
Yeah.
There would have been a level of it, but it would have been more in the friendly rivalry era. But the elevation of politics include Trump's threats and his vocal boosting of the team, American players who were quite thrilled to get his attention, the involvement and booing of anthems, and then the involvement of Wayne Gretzky, where Gretzky got booed in Montreal. Oh, no, Gretzky didn't show up in Montreal. Gretzky was in Boston. He got booed, and he refused to wear a Team Canada jersey. That was what it was. Gretzky got booed by the Canadiens in attendance. All of these things are a highlight of, and then afterwards, the Canadian players who are like Nathan McKinnon is not somebody who I would consider to be particularly political, maybe on the subject of carbs and helmet throwing, but other than that, but if you go and dig through his old tweets from before he joined the NHL and finished his media training, he said a few political things, like being in favor of gay marriage, which I think is legitimately very cool.
That is really cool. I didn't know that he had ever said anything publicly about it one way or the other.
Yeah, when he was still with the Mooseheads. I think when he said, we understand what's going on and the guys the country needed a win from a hockey player like that, that is a pretty strong comment.
Yeah.
And you could tell.
The bar is so low.
The bar is low. And I mean, the same thing happened with Brady, though. We talked about this offline when they asked Brady Tkachuk what he thought about Canadians booing the anthem. He refused to answer the question. He punted to his brother.
Yeah, he literally poked him.
And while
he had to answer, yeah.
And while the Tkachuks got heat for being close to Trump during the whole thing, it wasn't Brady. He didn't say anything. It was Matthew. And I guess Brady knows who's paying his bills. So.
Yeah, I mean, even Matthew didn't even say very much. It was very, I don't want to cause problems, but I am being asked a question. Yeah.
I think with Matthew, he had also had the visit to the White House shortly before, and he was
he had done
pretty jazzed about hanging out with the president.
Yep.
So I think that carried over.
It did.
But like JT Miller was one of the louder
JT
voices.
Miller he's a thin blue line guy.
Yes.
He literally is. He has literally worn that hat in pictures.
Yep, I know. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, yeah. So I think this is just sort of a spin out of that whole, if there's going to be hostility between Canada and the United States, our preferred battlefield is the ice rink. And when we get a chance to face Americans there, it's going to mean something more until there's regime change in the United States.
Yeah, fair enough.
And yeah, Wayne Gretzky is going to be considered an enemy. It's just that simple. So And yeah, like I've said before, I don't necessarily critique Russian athletes for not speaking out against the war or taking very cautious positions on social issues, because the Russian government maintains the capacity to do them and their loved ones harm, economic, social, or physical, if they choose to, and has proven that they will do so if they want to. So Ovechkin, I don't know what is true, where his heart lies on things. I suspect he doesn't think about them very much at all. But I think I know where Wayne Gretzky's heart is, and it's below the 49th parallel.
Burn. Yep.
Yep.
All right. With that, let's take a little break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the Montreal Canadiens.
Go Habs, go.
All right. We are back. You can follow us on Instagram or Bluesky at Neutral Zone Hotel, all one word. You can join our Discord at neutralzonehotel.com/Discord if you want to hang out with us. If you like this episode, please rate us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice. We're also available on YouTube at Neutral Zone Hotel. Please smash that like button, subscribe, and leave comments. You can also send comments to feedback@neutralzone.com or our Discord. We love it when people leave comments in the Discord, especially, because then you can chat with us about your thoughts on the show. So, Benjamin.
It's me.
The Montreal Canadiens are looking very, very much like they are going to make the playoffs this year. And it has been a road to get to this point. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, it's been a long road getting from there to here, but here we are now. So in 2021, during the bubble season, I don't know what you want to call it, the COVID season, Montreal went on an unexpected run to the Stanley Cup Finals. So this was a team that barely squeaked into the playoffs. The Canadian division was generally considered the weakest division, but the Leafs were almost certainly considered to come out. Montreal knocked the Leafs out in 7 games. Polished off Winnipeg very quickly, and then they crossed over to the Western Division and beat the favored Vegas Golden Knights in 6.
Incredible.
Most of this was made possible by a few things. Carey Price's last great act, where he posted a 930 in the first 3 rounds, which is an astronomical number. The emergence of young players like Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, incredible shutdown defense from Phil Deneau, and just kind of everything clicking at the right moment. The next year, the wheels came off almost immediately, and Montreal found themselves falling all the way into last place.
I remember. That was my first year watching hockey.
Yep. Marc Bergevin had been the general manager since 2012. He was in his 9th year. And Bergevin had come close to getting fired a few times as the Habs moved in and out of playoff contention. It's very clear that he was very good at making one good move whenever it felt like he was getting close, like signing Tyler Toffoli to a really cost-effective deal, making a really good trade, promoting a player. But he had vast deficiencies as a general manager. Drafting is not one of Bergevin's strong suits, although the scouting department got a little bit better at the end, like we'll talk about. But the simple fact of the matter is, Montreal has no first-round picks from before 2019 on their roster.
Oof.
Which is, damning.
Mm.
Right? The only prospect that they picked up in the first round that they still have is Cole Caulfield. And they got lucky.
He fell because he's small.
It fell because he's small, and it made him basically a gimme.
Yeah.
They picked up Caden Gooley, 16th overall in 2020. But yeah, so Kent Hughes replaced him in January of 2022. The team was at a very low point. About a few games later, he fired the coach and brought in Martin St. Louis, who was literally coaching his son's junior team at the time. So this is not somebody who they hired. He was hired because he spoke French and because the goal was not to win games. The goal was to stop the team from feeling miserable. And now Montreal, 3 years later, is looking at going back into the playoffs. So I wanted to walk through how we got here. So the current roster for the Habs, the most tenured player is Brendan Gallagher, who was actually drafted by Pierre Gauthier, who was the GM before Bergevin. So he was drafted in 2010.
Wow. He's been around forever.
Yep. Jake Evans was drafted in 2014 at 207 overall. Michael Pezzetta 160 in 2016. Yoel Armia was acquired by the Habs for Simon Bork, and he was a cap dump from the Jets with Steve Mason. They got a couple picks for it. Nick Suzuki was part of the return for the Max Pacioretty trade. It was Suzuki, Tatar in a second. Yeah. Oh no, that deal really worked out because Tatar was actually better for the Habs, and Tatar was a big part of that deep run team as well. But Nick Suzuki is obviously the point per game scorer. Nick Suzuki is obviously the key. He drafted Cole Caulfield, but like we talked about, that was kind of a gimme. Jaden Struble was a second round pick. He acquired Josh Anderson, drafted Caden Gooley, Jakob Dobish. And here's where things kind of go off the rails. So in 2021, at the draft, or just before the draft, they received a first overall in compensation for Jesperi Kotkaniemi being signed away from Montreal in an offer sheet. They traded that to Arizona for Christian Dvorak, who is, I think they expected to be a 2C to replace Phil Deneau, and he's not. He's a 3C at best, and now he's signed a 2C money. So that first disappeared. With their pick, they drafted Logan Mailloux, the player who had been asked to be excluded after his conviction I don't know what the crime is called in Swedish, but sex pestery, basically, distributing photograph of a girl in an intimate act with him without her permission. Despite the fact that he did not want to be drafted, Bergevin drafted him, which led to public crow eating from the organization and really put a black mark on Bergevin. They signed David Savard, who at best has been a third pairing defenseman during his entire period with Montreal. And just a few moves like that. The Josh Anderson extension, which is, although he's actually having an okay run right now, he's been not worth the money. And then basically he had reached his best before date, so he got fired. So since then, it's been a process of cleaning house, trying to find players for now, but also building up on the draft potential. The players we received from Bergevin who have been really good are Mike Matheson, who's functionally running as a top pairing defender, and Sam Montembeault. The last move he really made was acquiring Sam Montembeault off waivers, which has worked out really well.
Nice. That's a nice waiver pickup.
That's right.
Who put him on waivers?
Florida.
So they had too many goalies.
Well, yeah. So Florida has cleared out Sam Montembeault and Spencer Knight.
Yep, Spencer Knight, Devon Levi.
And Devon Levi. So Levi hasn't broken through yet, but the other two, like Sam Montembeault, he's a really good NHL goalie. I'm not saying he's not like going to win Vezinas, but he's good. Mm-hmm. So since that piece, it's been a process of how do we build assets. So right away, once Ken Hughes came in, he moved Tyler Toffoli to the Flames. The return was a first-round pick, a fifth-round pick, Tyler Pitlick, and Emil Heineman, who's on the team today. They moved out Ben Sherratt, received a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick. The first-round pick was moved for Kirby Dach. They moved out Brett Kulak. They received a 2022 conditional second-round pick and a few other small pieces. That could have been a 23 pick if the Oilers made the Cup final, but they didn't. They moved out Arturi Lehkonen and brought back Justin Barron, who has now been moved for Alex Carrier.
What do you think of that trade?
I'm fine with it. Barron wasn't part of the plans, and Carrier speaks French and is good in the moment.
Do you wish you still had Lehkonen, though?
Oh.
Lehkonen's a good player.
Yes, I do.
Like, would you trade Lehkonen for Carrier?
Probably not.
Okay.
But there's a 2024 fourth in there. Or 2024, let me double check that. Hold on. Where did it go? 2024 second in there.
Okay, well, that could be something. A second.
And we took with it, or what did we do with it? I don't think we kept it.
This is Trade Trees with the Neutral Zone Hotel.
Yeah, that's right. Trade Trees with the one trade Benjamin didn't write down beforehand.
I'm sorry I asked about this one.
No, you're good. You're good. Maybe that's incorrect. Oh, no. Hold on. It was moved to L.A. when Montreal traded up to get Michael Haig. And then L.A. used it on Team Canada starting goaltender Carter George.
Okay. Are you excited about Michael Haig?
I am. He had a great year. So,
worth it.
Yeah, I think it was probably worth it. And Lecky's a great player, and I love watching him in Colorado. But yeah, they moved out Alexander Romanov for a first. They used the first to acquire Kirby Dach.
That was a great trade.
I mean, Dach's been injured a lot.
I mean, yeah, Romanov for a first was a great trade. I'm not sure fleecing. The Kirby. Yeah, an absolute fleecing. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think they've gotten really unlucky with Dach. He should be better than he is, but he's just been.
Yep.
His knees. That poor man's knees.
No, and I apologize. Mike Matheson was acquired by Hughes. So Mike Matheson was acquired for the ghosts of Jeff Petrie and Ryan Paling, a forward that was never in their plans. Montreal gets Sean Monahan in a 2025 conditional first, which has ridiculous conditions on it.
Oh yes, that's quite. If our listeners have not seen that trade, the Sean Monahan to Montreal trade is the most complicated conditional trade ever. Yep. It is laughably complicated.
Basically, Calgary has a potential Florida first round pick in 2026, I think. And there's a whole tree, but basically they still have a pick coming from Sean Monahan. That's to acquire him as a cap dump.
They got paid to take it.
We're gonna get there.
For those who are not aware, Sean Monahan was gravely injured.
Yeah.
2 hip surgeries, just massively injured at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then on February 2nd, they moved him to the Jets for 2024 first, which they also moved in the up to get Michael Haig. And so we moved Jordan Harris for Patrick Laine, which is incredible. And we got a second round pick to take Laine in 2026. And then, we moved Carrier. So I want to go over, Montreal right now, with the signing of Ivan Demidov today, which is incredible. Montreal has Ivan Demidov coming, David Reinbacher. They have Michael Haig. They have Owen Beck, Josh Waugh. So there are definitely some forwards there that are going to help them out. Mayu may or may not make it at this point. Jacob Fowler is coming, who is considered the second best goaltending prospect in the game after Yaroslav Askarov. All of these are
not a Duck.
Not a Duck, despite that name. Fowler just signed his 3-year deal as well a couple days ago. And Montreal has, in draft picks, 2 first rounds this year, assuming the Calgary pick shows up, 2 second round, 3 third rounds, 2 fourth rounds. Next year, they have an additional second and an additional fourth. They have a ton of draft capital that they can use to acquire players if this team is real, and if not, they can just grab a bunch of good players. The drafting has come up. Philip Misar was a bit of a miss, but overall, I think the drafting's been really good. And I don't think it's a surprise that Montreal is here. And on top of that, the one thing they really need is a 2C, and they have $10 million of money coming off the books.
Yes, although I am not sure that the free agent market is going to be particularly good this year.
I think they're going to take a run at Sam Bennett.
Be interesting. How old is he now?
I think it's 27 or 28.
Maybe. He's got a few years left in him. Hopefully. I mean, for his sake, hopefully his knees are not a mess.
He turns 29 in June. So
okay. Yeah, it's about right.
I could see the Habs taking a run at him. Or maybe they locate somebody who's willing to do a trade and use that draft capital and find themselves a 2C. But ultimately, what was supposed to be a really long road has become a pretty short one with some smart drafting, some smart acquisitions like Mike Matheson, Laine.
I think that there is part of the story here, especially in these acquisitions, is especially for players like Sean Monahan, is the willingness to take on bad money, and not just bad contracts, but like really bad money, like contracts with a lot of money left on them, not just a lot of term or contracts with high cap hits, but low real money. Montreal has been willing to spend more to rebuild faster, and they've done it in a very smart way.
So I think one of the things that we have to really congratulate Hughes and Gorton on is asset management in general, understanding what they can get and what they can do. They brought in Monahan and then they signed him to a short-term extension with the stated intent of rebuilding his career and getting him to a contender. And then he got a really nice deal with Columbus out of it, so he could go play with his best bud. And that's sad, but he got what he was supposed to get, and the Habs got 2 firsts out of it. Like, what more do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were really willing to rehab not just his career, but his hips.
Yeah. The Habs were able to really recognize the market for Ben Sherratt was at its peak and moved him off at exactly the right time. God, that was such a bad deal. They were able to peel Mike Matheson. They went and saw the way he was being deployed in Pittsburgh and said, we think that's a better player. Jeff Petrie is falling off a cliff. Let's move him with small sweetener and get a guy that we think we can add to our roster for the next 4 to 6 years, who'll be very effective. Not only now when we are in a really tough spot from a really tough spot on defense in general, but down the road as our young guys graduate, he can move down to that middle pairing and still be extremely effective. We're going to take chances on certain talent. We're going to take a swing on a few players. And we're going to, like I said, that Brett Kulak trade, the Tyler Toffoli trade, there was extremely good returns from those. And I didn't say what we got with that second round from the Brett Kulak trade.
What'd you get?
Just a little guy named Lane Hutson, who is almost certain.
That was great drafting.
Almost certainly is going to win the Calder this year. He is only a couple points out, a couple assists out from tying the rookie record.
There are 31 other teams that are mad that you got Lane Hutson.
Yeah, I mean, I think it bumped up his brother's draft position by about 20 points.
Now that's just silly.
Because Cole Hutson is good, but he's not as good as Lane.
Mm-hmm. But they share DNA, therefore.
I think Cole Hudson's going to be a very good NHL player. But I think Lane's probably the better of the two. And that's the opinion
as well.
That's the opinion of Joe Dell, who has watched the games, and Ryan Lambert says the same thing. And Ryan Lambert knows college hockey. So I think Lane Hutson is a fascinating player. He may never score 20 goals like a lot of top defensemen in this league, but if he's going to set up 60 or 70 goals a year, who gives a shit? So I'm massively a fan of Lane Hutson. They are benefiting from a few swings that were made late on, like Cole and signing or picking up Reinbacher. Gee whiz. Picking up Montembeault off waivers. And I would say the Habs are even benefiting from not taking Matvei Michkov 2 drafts ago. Because I think Reinbacher is doing very well in Laval. It looks like he'll be NHL ready next year after helping Laval hopefully go deep into the playoffs. And if they had picked Michkov, there wouldn't have been much of an appetite to take Demidov, and I think Demidov is better. He has broken the U20 records in the KHL. Records held by guys like Kirill Kaprizov and Michkov and a couple others. So there is quite a lot there for us to look forward to, and he's hopefully joining the team this year. So, and if he wins the Conn Smythe Trophy, he gets an extra $560,000 American. So, let's.
That is the silliest, definitely the funniest performance bonus clause I have ever seen on an ELC.
It's incredible.
I
hope he does it.
I love the bold swing of that clause. It's entertainment for days.
Let's hope he does it. Why not?
I have a question for you.
Please.
What do you think about the Slavkovsky pick?
Great
Drafted
question.
First overall.
So, I think it was the right pick.
You wouldn't rather they have taken a center?
No.
Cooley?
Cooley's good.
Cooley would be a second year. Cooley is a second line center. Like, he might be a first line center someday, but he is a solid second line center.
I think they looked at it and they said to themselves, well, we need a left winger for our top line. This is before Patrick Laine was in the picture. And I think Laine is better on the second line with his age and his current abilities. Mm-hmm. He's got a big...
wingers are easier to come by, though.
They are easier to come by, but I think they quite accurately judge that most of the centers available at the top end of this draft were 2Cs. So you had an option between a guy whose ceiling was top line winger all-star or a guy who is 2C on a good team. And I think that's the right call. I'm
not convinced that's Cooley's ceiling.
I think it was the consensus at the time.
Okay.
The other thing that they did in that draft was they went out and traded for Kirby Dach, who was drafted 3rd overall and was very clearly not in the plans for Chicago.
I'm not convinced Chicago has, real plans.
No, but at the time, it was evident that Dach could be bought for fairly cheap. And unfortunately, injuries have derailed him. But if he hadn't had, an injury on the same knee twice in a row, he probably would be the right 2C for that. So they had a plan to get the 2C and the top line winger. And I think that explains why they picked Slavkovsky. Now, Slavkovsky just turned 21 a couple weeks ago. He's got tons of time to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And, is he 100% there yet? No. But he's at 48 points on the year in 74 games. Okay? So I'm going to read you a couple, and this is not a direct one for one, okay? I don't want you to think I'm trying to pick a completely comparable player, but age 18 season, 63 points. Age 19 season, 38 points. Age 20 season, 52 points. Age 21 season, 53 points. Right? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Are you talking about Nathan McKinnon?
I am.
Because he's like the most prominent player in the league right now who had a really rough start to his career.
Yes. Like there is lots of time for Slavkovsky to figure this out and become a 30-goal guy. And, you know, he's within spitting distance of 20 goals at age 21. Not many players can do that. So he very well might be a 50-point guy this year. He was a 50-point guy last year to 2030. He might be something along that this year, 2035. Who knows?
I mean...
And Montreal has been rough this year for long stretches.
All right. I mean, if you're happy with the pick and you think it made sense, then who am I to argue with you?
I mean, you can do hindsight as 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But, like...
I do think it's worth acknowledging that entire draft class has struggled.
It has, and it's been rough, and the draft class after it as well has struggled as well. The COVID years impacted all these guys. The thing that worries me the most about Slavkovsky is that he goes as Nick Suzuki goes. Nick Suzuki go Burr, Slavkovsky go Burr. He hasn't figured out how to be a play driver yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But Caulfield, he's a finisher. He's a pure finisher.
He can be a small assist boy sometimes.
He can be. Sometimes he passes. We have another small assist boy now.
That's right.
That's right.
That's true.
So yeah, I think it was the right pick at the time, even if it hasn't worked out exactly the way they want, but that's hockey. And for the Habs to have their 2019 first overall, or first round pick, their 2020 first round pick, their 2021 first round pick is not on the roster. He's in Laval. The 2022 first round pick, and now the 2024 first round pick on the roster. That is something that has not happened in Montreal in a very long time, because the high level drafting has been atrocious. So knowing that the 2024 pick is coming, Mayu may or may not make it, and I don't care. Like, they shouldn't have picked him. I'm perfectly fine with, you know, obviously we picked him and we're stuck with him, and I hope he has a good career and all that stuff or whatever. And has learned all the lessons he needs to learn to be a good functional human. But Montreal shouldn't have picked him. But as for everyone else, they're all going to make the team. And we get 2 more shots at first round picks in this draft coming up. And of the guys we acquired with our other first rounds, like Philip Misar is probably not going to make it. But we used those other first round picks to get Newhook and Doc, who are on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
are you happy with Newhook?
He's fine. I think they traded a 29th overall pick for him. Or 31st over, like they traded a very low draft pick for him, and he's like a middle 6 guy. That's about right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with Newhook.
Cool. All right. Well, it sounds like the Montreal Canadiens are going to win the Stanley Cup any minute now.
I mean, they got to pay Ivan Demidov out his very funny. His very funny bonus. So, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's right.
They got it in the bag.
Yeah, so I'll cheer for him this year. Hopefully the Kraken are better this year, or better next year, and then I can cheer against them, but we'll see.
One day.
Yeah. I don't think the Kraken are the Buffalo Sabres.
No, I don't think so either.
Which might actually be a good transition point. Speaking of the Buffalo Sabres, I would like to talk about the WHL playoffs.
Okay, yeah. Those are the two related things.
Those are two related things. I am going to make them related because I'm going to talk a little bit about one young man named Scott Ratzlaff, who is a Buffalo Sabres prospect. He is a goaltender, and he has been signed. He cannot retreat from the Buffalo system to the NCAA next year. He is stuck. So next year he is very likely to be playing on their AHL team, which is, what is their AHL team? Rochester Americans. And so, why am I talking about Scott Ratzlaff? So this young goalie he's the primary goalie for the Seattle Thunderbirds, who are absolutely not my team. My team is the Everett Silvertips. But the Seattle Thunderbirds were the 8th seed in the Western Conference of the Western Hockey League, which means that they had the privilege of playing the Everett Silvertips, the best team in the WHL this year, winners of the Scotty Monroe Memorial Trophy, in round 1. This was a very stressful series for me personally because I was attending the Silvertips home games. And I don't know if our listeners know this about me, but I'm a very anxious person, and I invest too much. I feel things too deeply. And there were multiple overtimes in this series. So even though you would think that the Silvertips are the far better team than the Seattle Thunderbirds, there are a couple of things that were working against the Silvertips in this series. One, the best player on their team, Carter Bear, who is draft eligible this summer and is likely to go top 15, maybe even top 10, unfortunately shredded his Achilles tendon a month ago or so in a game against the Portland Winterhawks. Folks, you gotta wear the socks, the Kevlar socks. I am not kidding. Do not shred your Achilles tendons from skate blades in WHL games, please.
Did you see what happened to Josh Anderson the first time he wore the socks? Someone ran over his ankle. Same game. And he wasn't even cut, so.
Incredible.
Yep.
Incredible timing. I hope he never takes them off.
Well, take them off between games, Josh. It's okay to wash them up and stuff.
You know what I mean. So the Silvertips were missing their best. They were missing their best player in Carter Bear, and they will miss him for the rest of the playoffs, unfortunately. But hopefully he'll be back next year and healthy. I really hope so. The other thing is that the Seattle Thunderbirds have Scott Ratzlaff. Scott Ratzlaff is a very good goalie. Now, I am not someone who can watch someone play in a junior hockey game and be like, oh yeah, that person is definitely going to make the NHL. I am not a scout. I do not know. What I do know is when somebody is good for the league that I am watching and I'm familiar with, and Scott Ratzlaff is that. He is one of the best goalies in the WHL this year, and he absolutely kept the Thunderbirds in that series. Just some incredible goaltending performances out of it, including Game 6. So they went to Game 6, in which they played 93 minutes of hockey with no score on either side. Goose eggs into a second overtime. Eventually, the Silvertips did manage to score. and won that game and won the series. That was last night. It was very stressful. I ended up having to go to sleep before the game was over. And then last night I did dream about that series because I was thinking about it so much. Something good has happened. What is it?
Moose has just scored an empty netter. They're going to do it.
Goodness.
They're going to knock off the top team in the queue.
Oh, okay. All right. Back up. Explain where we're at with the Mooseheads situation.
There are 50 seconds left. The Mooseheads are up 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
The Voltigeur have just pulled the goaltender. And the Mooseheads just scored an empty netter from the red line in the middle.
This is so exciting. So this is the opposite of what ended up happening with the Silvertips and Thunderbirds. And yet the good guys, or at least our teams, are managing to triumph in both series. I could not be more thrilled. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 40 seconds left. The Voltigeur are going for it, but it's not looking good. Come on, boys. Just a few more seconds.
I'm thrilled. We are equal opportunity league lovers here on the Neutral Zone Hotel. Junior hockey, women's hockey, men's pro hockey. Somehow not the NCAA. We just
don't care.
We just don't live near any NCAA teams. I think is the problem. I'm sure the hockey's fine.
I follow the SHL sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true. The European we pay more attention to the European leagues than we do to NCAA hockey.
I pay for elite prospects so I don't have to watch college hockey.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe if we got a college hockey correspondent, Madison.
Maybe.
We need to bring Madison back. Make a note. Madison will be our official college hockey correspondent.
Don't put that on them without their permission.
Okay,
yeah, the Mooseheads have closed out the Voltigeur and are going on to the next round. Incredible. I love it when an 8 seed upsets a 1 seed. It's so cool.
Who are they playing next? Who are they playing in round 2?
I would have to look. I don't know.
All right. Fair enough. The Everett Silvertips will be playing the Portland Winterhawks.
Oh, your favorite.
I know, right? If the Silvertips have 2 primary rivals, the Thunderbirds, who are located a mere 60 miles away, and the Portland Winterhawks, who are located in Portland. Those games tend to get mean in the regular season. The Thunderbirds series was quite mean here in the playoffs, and yeah, I anticipate that Portland series is going to be a mess. They don't have the good goalie, but the team itself is much better. So yeah, it should be a really fun time.
It looks like they'll be playing. Oh, I don't know. That's the playoffs, hold on, regular season. Because they reseed.
The reseeding makes it confusing.
They'll be playing Ruin Naranda next.
Okay. Are they good?
I mean, they're the second best team in the West.
All right, fair enough.
They just took out the Gatineau Olympiques in 5 games, so.
Rest in peace, Gatineau Olympiques.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's it for us. I don't think we have anything else to talk about.
One more thing.
Yes, we do.
Berkeley Catton had a 7-point game in their series in the Spokane Chiefs series against, I've actually now forgotten who they were playing, but yeah, 7-point game.
It's pretty good.
That's incredible. I think Berkeley Catton might be the next, he might be the hope of the Seattle Kraken coming up. So
yeah, sounds right.
See how that goes. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
All right.
Yeah, that's it. I guess I'll close it out.
Do it.
Thank you so much. You have been listening to the Neutral Zone Hotel, which is written, hosted, and produced by the Neutral Zone Hotel crew. That's us. Find out more at neutralzonehotel.com. Thank you to Emily Mowbray for designing our fabulous logo. You can follow us on Instagram or Bluesky at Neutral Zone Hotel. or email us at feedback@neutralzonehotel.com. You can join our Discord at neutralzonehotel.com/Discord. And if you like this episode, please rate us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice. Click the like button if you're listening on YouTube, or tell a friend of yours what a great podcast you discovered. It's called The Neutral Zone Hotel, and we're available on every major podcast platform.
True facts. The Moosehead scored.
So did the Canadiens.
Yay. Good.
Cole Caulfield scored.
Oh, I love it when Cole Caulfield scores. I'm going to love it almost as much as I'm going to love it when Ivan Demidov scores. That's a lie. I'll love it more.